Today you will learn about the ArchiCAD workspace. We will be focusing on the floor plan view. We will go around the floor plan view and identify the different palettes. Beginning on the left, the first palette you need to be familiar with is the toolbox. The toolbox contains the different tools we will use to build the house. When you have a tool selected in the toolbox, up above you can look at the info box. The info box contains information about the tool you have selected. For each tool, the info box will look slightly different. When you have a tool selected, specifically the wall tool, the roof tool, and the slab tool, you have different options for how you are able to draw with that tool. These options here are referred to as the geometry method. The geometry method controls the way you are able to draw with the tool. Each tool's geometry methods are slightly different. Directly above your info box, on the standard toolbar, you have several buttons that you need to become familiar with. The first button that you need to be familiar with is the trace option. This allows us to see what's drawn on other floors from below. For instance, if I had a wall drawn on this floor, and I move to my second floor, turning on the trace option allows me to see where that wall was drawn. The next tool that you need to be familiar with is this tool here. This is the grid snap. The grid snap has two different settings: snap grid and construction grid. On the snap grid, you were allowed to move in 4-inch increments. Again, when the snap grid is selected, you are able to move in 4-inch increments. When the construction grid is selected, you are able to work in 1-foot increments. So again, this button here is your grid snap. You have two snap options: the snap grid at 4 inches and the construction grid at 1 foot. Directly to the left of that button is the tracker. The tracker shows you how far you have traveled when you are drawing an element. This is helpful when you're trying to dimension your walls. Moving along to the right-hand side of the screen, the palette on the right is the navigator. What you need to know how to do is how to move between floors. To move from your first floor to your second floor, or even to your basement, you double-click. You can verify that you're on the floor you want to be by looking at the title bar here. Double-clicking will help you move between floors. Following down the navigator palette, you need to be familiar with generic axonometry. This is your standard 3D window. When you double-click here, you get a 3D view of your building, and you are able to move around and take a look. To get back to your first floor in the floor plan view, double-click. Below that is the camera path. If you have a camera on your floor plan, going to the camera path and expanding its menu you can see the cameras you have on your screen. This will let you see a different perspective of your building. So your two options for your 3D window are your standard 3D window and your camera views. Back in the floor plan view, along the bottom there are several tools that you'll need to be familiar with. The first is the Fit in Window button. If you are very zoomed out and you hit the Fit in Window button, it'll bring everything back to view. Or if you're very zoomed in and you hit the Fit in Window, it brings everything back in view. The next button is your Zoom Out. I select this tool and zoom out by double-clicking or by clicking and dragging around an area. To get back to my full view, Fit in Window. Here, my last tool is the Zoom In. I can double-click on the screen or select a specific area to zoom in on. Again, Fit to Screen gets everything back. Your floor plan is set as a coordinate plane. Here, you have the origin. On the coordinate plane, this represents 0, 0. When you look at this, you have X and Y. When I place my mouse over the X on the screen, your X and Y represent 0. That's the origin on the coordinate plane. With my grid snap off, I am able to move in 64ths of an inch. With snap grid selected, I can move in 4-inch increments. And with construction grid, I'm allowed to move 1 foot at a time. Lastly, moving around your window, you have 4 markers. These are called elevation markers. You have a north, east, south, and west, which give you a 2-dimensional view of the outside of your house.